Hello and a very good morning, a very good afternoon, and a very good evening based on the time in which you'll be watching this video. I'm hoping that every one of you is doing well along with your family members, and I'm also hoping that you all are keeping safe, following all the protocols which have been or which should be followed during these times, and do not forget to wash your hands. Now, moving on, I guess we are in the third stage, not guessing, but we are in the third stage of the lockdown, which has been extended till the 17th of May. So, along with the lockdown, I'm hoping that you all keep being productive, you all keep studying, and let us hope that everything gets back to normal quite soon. Now, continuing with our video lectures, what do we have? Or let us move on to the next topic. For Standard 10, we all were doing the powers and functions of the Union Parliament. Now, when we discussed the powers and functions of the Union Parliament in the previous class, we were doing about the legislative powers. That legislative powers mean the law-making power of the Parliament. Now, let us move on. Moving on, there are some other powers and functions of the Parliament too. One of the most important functions which the Parliament has is the control over the national finance. Now, what is the national finance? National finance is the amount of money which is coming into the country, through not to the private sector or not to the private individuals, but the money which is coming into the country, the money which is being taken into loan, or money which is being taken as loan, or the money which the government is getting as grants. All the government money or all the money, or the public money which is coming into the country or which is there in the country, that is dealing with the national finance. And the way the government spends that money, the way the government is going to get extra money, or the way the government is going to get the money so as to cover its spending or to cover its expenditure, comes under the national finance. Now, the national finance is a very important function which lies, or control of the national finance is a very important function which lies with the Parliament. It is so because the national finance is the more or less the taxpayers' money, or the money which is going to be spent on the taxpayers or on the public of India, or the money which is being taken. So there are many systems and there are many ways by which the government takes up money from the market. The government borrows money from the market, from the people, and also has to give back the money, or in terms of different infrastructure or different other services. So this national finance has to be in the control of the Parliament, because the money which is of the people has to go back to the people, and also the the executive has to be responsible, or has to be held responsible for the way it is spending the money and the way it is getting the money. So that is why the control of this national finance lies with the legislature. And if I were to ask you which house controls the national finance, it is most importantly the Lok Sabha. Why is it that the Lok Sabha is more important in controlling the national purse of the country? It is so because the Lok Sabha, as I have been keeping on telling, the Lok Sabha is, as it stands, it is the house of the people. So the people have elected the members of the Lok Sabha. The members of the Rajya Sabha are there to safeguard the interests of the state. So the members of the Rajya Sabha do not have direct relationship, or are not directly elected by the people of the country, or by the people of India. So the Lok Sabha has the power, or the Lok Sabha is empowered by the constitution or by the constitution makers, so as to have the control over the national finance, also to have control over the way the government is spending. It has more of the power than the Rajya Sabha. Now, one very important part which the Lok Sabha has over here is the case of the money bills. What are money bills? Money bills are those bills which are concerned with the spending of money based on which is concerned with the spending of money, or the taxpayers' money. Now, when it comes to the taxpayers' money, when we are talking of the taxpayers' money, it is the people who should, it is the people's representative who should have the control over the money which is being spent, or the money which the government is getting from the taxpayers. That money, how it is spent, that control, or any new bill which comes, or any new act which talks of spending the taxpayers' money in a different way, that control should lie with the Lok Sabha, because the members of the Lok Sabha are elected by the people. That is why money bills are introduced only in the Lok Sabha. Whether a bill is a money bill or not is decided by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. And once it is decided that the bill is a money bill, that money bill or the after it is being passed by the Lok Sabha, it moves on to the Rajya Sabha, but the Rajya Sabha does not have any control over that money bill. So the Rajya Sabha does not get to vote on that. The Rajya Sabha can just suggest some changes or amendments to that bill, and again send back that bill to the Lok Sabha within 14 days. If it does not, or if it fails to send the money bill back to the Lok Sabha within 14 days, then it is assumed by the Lok Sabha, and this is what it is given in the constitution. It is then to be assumed that the money bill has been passed. So this after the money bill has been passed, now when the money bill is introduced, the money bill is actually introduced in the parliament from the president. I mean, it is not from the president, it is actually the executive or the prime minister in consultation with the council of ministers asks the president to introduce a bill into the house, and which is termed as the money bill. The responsibility of terming it as a money bill lies with the speaker, of course, but it is the president who introduces that bill into the Lok Sabha. That is why when this money bill goes to the president for his signature, the president has to give his sign or has to give his assent to the money bill, because in the first place the money bill was introduced by the president or by the permission of the president himself. That is why after the money bill has been passed by the Lok Sabha, it moves on to the Rajya Sabha, and in the Rajya Sabha, which has to return back that money bill within 14 days, and after that the money bill goes to the bill goes to the president for his assent, and after that it becomes an act. That was about the money bill. Moving on from the money bill, we next have the budget. What actually is the budget? The budget is the annual financial statement of the government. What is the annual financial statement, or what actually we all know about budgets? There are budgets of homes, there are budgets of different companies, budgets of different entities. So what actually is the budget? The budget talks about the credit inflows and also the debit, or the amount of money which comes in and the amount of expenditure which any entity, be it the government, be it a home, or be it a company, it has to incur. So when we are talking of the financial budget or the annual budget or of the government, what is it actually deals with the money which the government is going to get in the coming year, so as to cover or so as to take care of its expenditure, and also it talks about the expected expenditures which the government may be incurring in the coming year. It also talks about the previous year's expenditures, and it gives the statement of the previous year's expenditure and the previous year's earnings. This is what is actually there in the budget, and the budget is presented in the budget session, and the budget is presented in the month of February by the finance minister, and the budget is prepared by the finance ministry. And this budget which is presented, this budget is after the budget is presented, this budget is put to vote by or is discussed on. There are a few the parliament can, or the members of the parliament can ask for a few expenditures to be cut or a few expenditures to be increased. There is a discussion on the different articles or the different provisions or the different expenditures and the spending and the different ways the government is going to get the money on the which is there in the budget. There is discussion on that, and then the budget is put to vote. After the budget is put to vote, it actually, when the house is having, or when the party is having majority, that is why it is forming the government, or even if it is a coalition government, it has the majority, that is why it's there in the government. So the budget is more or less passed after the voting, and after the budget has been passed, the budget is put to action. The budget is put to effect after the new financial year or when the new financial year starts. The new financial year every year starts on the 1st of April, and there are at times okay, we'll be coming to the other nitty-gritty of this budget afterwards, but what we have next we have, okay, after the budget is done, but the budget, we have to keep in mind that there is no more railway budget as separate, there's no separate railway budget. The railway budget has also been put into inside the general budget, and it is presented, the railway minister does not present the railway budget anymore. It is presented by the finance minister himself, and it has become a part of the general budget. Now coming to one of the most important function of the parliament, that is control over the executive. Now there has to be some kind of a control over any executive in a democratic setup. If there is no control over the executive, what may at times happen is that the executive may assume superpowers or extraordinary powers. Superpower does not mean over here flying with a cape, but then extraordinary powers. What does these extraordinary power means? Extraordinary power means acting in ways or exercising its power in excess of what has been granted or given to the executive by the constitution. When such kind of a thing happens, or when the executive is not able to perform satisfactorily, or when the executive fails in performing its duty which has been given to it by the or the duty which has been entrusted to it by the citizens of India, if it fails to do that, then there has to be some kind of a check and a control. This check and control is provided by the parliament. The parliament has both the houses of the parliament, they have different ways. They have different instruments, legislative instruments, parliamentary instruments, by which they can keep control, or they have this check and power. It can keep a check on and balance on the powers of the, or on the functioning of the executive. We have to keep in mind that in the Indian context, or in the parliamentary system of government, the executive is a part and parcel of the legislature. That is why the parliament, the council of ministers and the prime ministers are members of the parliament first. After that, they become members of the executive. So they belong to the parliament, they belong to the legislature, and they are answerable to the legislature. When we say they are answerable to the legislature, it actually means that they are indirectly answerable to the people of India. Now, the people of India, 130 crore people, cannot be going to the going to New Delhi, the capital of India, and asking questions to the executive. It has to be done through the representatives, and our representatives are, as I've been keeping on telling, and as you all know, the representatives are the members of members of parliament, most importantly the members of the Lok Sabha. So those representatives are the ones who actually question the government and keep check on the government. What are some of the ways by which the government is, or by which the legislative can keep control, or can keep check on the executive, or on the powers of the executive? Some such ways are, we have the question hour. Now, at the start of every day we have, or at the start of every session, at the start of every day of each session, the first hour is dedicated, or the first hour is called to be the question hour or the interpellation. What is the question hour? The question hour is the time in which the members of the parliament can ask questions to the ministers or the government or the executive. Now, these questions, it does not mean that we can just raise our hand as in a classroom and start asking questions. The questions have to be submitted to the speaker in advance. There are short notice questions, there are normal notice questions. So the speaker has to be given prior notice before asking, or before such questions are tabled on the floor of the parliament. When we say floor of the parliament, this is term, you may be coming across this term, or you may come across this term, floor of the parliament. What does floor of the parliament mean? It actually means in the house, or in the Lok Sabha, or in the Rajya Sabha. When something happens, that is said to be on the floor of the parliament. So when such questions are tabled in the floor of the parliament, it is done by giving prior notice to the speaker of the Lok Sabha or the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. There are over here we have two kinds of questions, or most importantly there are two kinds. The first one is start questions, and next we have the unstart questions. What are start questions? Start questions are those questions which, when we are submitting to the, suppose I am a parliamentarian, I am a member of the Lok Sabha, and I am submitting prior notice, or beforehand I am submitting the question which I want to ask to a certain minister. That question I am submitting to the speaker, and before submitting it, if I mark give a star before the question, it means it's a start question. If there's an asterisk, and if there's an asterisk, it means it's a star question. If there is no asterisk, it means it's an unstart question. What are the main differences over here? The start questions which are there, the start questions can be answered orally, and supplementary questions can be asked. Suppose I'm asking the question, I'll be asking the question on the floor of the house to you. You are a member of the government, and I'm asking a question to you. You are at your freedom to answer me the questions orally that time, or you may ask for some time so as to answer the question, but you will be answering the question orally, and I can ask you supplementary questions, or I can ask you further questions on the answer, based on the answer which you have given me. Now, there are unstart questions which are not followed by the asterisk. Now, suppose I am asking an unstart question, that answer will be followed by a written explanation by the minister concerned, and no supplementary questions will be asked. So this is start question and start question. So the question are during the question hour, the government and the ministers of the government are actually questioned by the members of the legislature or by the members of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha as to why they are doing something, as to how the government is functioning, as to why there are certain problems. So these questions are asked by the members of the parliament so as to get detailed information regarding how something or some piece of legislation or act is taking or is functioning in the country or different other matters. Next very important thing we have is the adjournment motion. What is the adjournment motion? The adjournment motion means you may have heard the house is adjourned, the court is adjourned. What does adjourn mean? Adjourn means putting aside or putting a stop to the usual business or the usual working or whatever work is being done, that is put to a full stop. Now when we are talking of the adjournment motion, when the motion is raised, the motion has to be raised by 50 members or it has to be backed by 50 members. Suppose I am a member of the parliament, I am in the opposition benches, I am raising an adjournment motion or I am tabling an adjournment motion. That motion has to be backed by 50 other members. If it is so backed, then the speaker may admit the adjournment motion. It depends on the speaker. Adjournment motion is tabled into the parliament when some very important or some national or international event takes place which has direct implications on the people of the country or which is important for the people of the country. So when such a incident takes place, you cannot be waiting for the questioner to ask the question. So that is why an adjournment motion is tabled, and after an adjournment motion is tabled, the adjournment motion has to be backed, and after the adjournment motion is admitted by the speaker, all the working or all the business or which was taking place in the house is put to an end, and that specific matter which was raised in the adjournment motion, that is taken up for discussion by the house. So that is an adjournment motion. So adjournment motion is also an important tool or an instrument which is there with the members of the parliament so as to ask the government regarding some incident or some happening, what is happening in the country, and so as to corner the government on a certain policy issue or a certain issue of national or international importance. And next we have two other motions, the censure motion and the motion of no confidence. The censure motion and the motion of no confidence, it will be requiring a detailed explanation, and there are differences also in the censure motion and adjournment motion. So I'll be covering this up in the next video lecture along with the other parts of this chapter. I know this is a long chapter, so it will be taking time. Please be patient, and please while you are doing this chapter, also keep on referring to different articles on the internet and the web so as to collect not newer information, so as to consolidate the information which I am giving you, so as to better understand the information which is given in the book. And then please prepare this subject, this chapter. This chapter is very important not only for your exams but also for day-to-day life, because this is civics. Civics is actually important in our day-to-day life and in our day-to-day workings. So I'm hoping that you all will be studying well, and please stay safe, be safe, and keep enjoying this lockdown. Thank you.